Hello. Okay, Ahsoka, Episode 5, Shadow Warrior. I like this episode a lot. The first 20 minutes where you've got Ahsoka and Anakin in the world in between worlds, and Anakin is trying to teach Ahsoka a lesson. Just this entire sequence, the entire 20 minutes of her with Anakin is, for me personally, an accumulation of everything that this character has gone through up until now, and it's about her sort of getting over her guilt and the trauma of Anakin's downfall and experiencing the Clone Wars. There is so much emotional weight and depth to this first 20 minutes of this episode, and it's just beautifully shot. And it all comes alive through the cinematography, the lighting, and just the way it's all shot. This entire episode is beautiful, but especially those first 20 minutes where you see the Clone Wars in live action, with Anakin Skywalker and young Ahsoka. It's just beautiful, and the way in which they brought that to life. It's very visceral. It has a very kind of visceral feeling. And it's through the lighting and through the writing in these moments that you just get this real kind of sense of sadness and a sense of horror and dread as well. And a lot of the negative criticism towards this particular episode was, it's just fan service. And you know what? Surface level, if you're just going to sit down, relax and just watch it, and on a surface level, then yeah, it's fan service. You've got live action Anakin and Ahsoka during the Clone Wars, and it's just fucking beautiful. But at the same time, there's a lot more going on here. There are deeper themes occurring within this episode, and it's up to you as a viewer if you really want to dig into that. It's there, it really is there. But it's up to you to dig into that. And that, for me, this particular episode really highlights what Star Wars is and what it's all about. Now, there is this quote. Do you know what? I might have dreamt it because I can't seem to find it. But I'm sure the quote comes from Mark Hamill. And he once said in an interview somewhere that Star Wars is as shallow as you wanted it to be, or is as deep as you want it to be. And I absolutely agreed with that, because, Star Wars is fun, it's enjoyable, it's fantasy, it's a fairy tale, but it's also deeper if you really want to make it deeper because of the themes that they are exploring. And this episode for me really highlights that. And so, yes, depending on how you watch this episode or how you want to look at it, it can be fan service, but it's also a hell of a lot more if you want it to be. And the themes that Filoni is exploring with this character of Ahsoka, not just this episode, but with the character of Ahsoka, are incredibly deep, are incredibly sad, and it's what's really compelling me to the character. It's why Ahsoka has become one of my favourite characters. And yeah, a lot of that is because I followed this character since the Clone Wars as well, and I do recommend viewers that are watching Ahsoka that have never seen the Clone Wars or Rebels to please go and watch them. They are absolutely incredible. I was one of those fans that was hesitant for a long time before watching them, and when I did, it was the best thing that ever happened in regards to Star Wars. And for me, this entire episode is all about character, and a character like Ahsoka just coming to terms with what she's gone through and growing. And it's just beautifully done, and there's a lot of beautiful moments and shots in this episode. There's this one scene where she finds herself during the attack on Ryloth. I believe it's episode 19 from season 1, and you've got the clone troopers running towards the camera, and it just really immerses you into this moment. And like I said, you can feel the sense of dread and the horror of this moment for Ahsoka, who's played beautiful by Ariana Greenblatt, who plays young Ahsoka. She is absolutely fantastic as young Ahsoka. You could feel the pain, you could feel the horror, and she just feels natural within this role. And the moment with the Purrgil as well, during the climax of the episode as they're about to jump into hyperspace, it was beautiful. Just the way the scene plays out, along with the fantastic score by Kevin Kline. Like, this I hope they release the score on vinyl, because I just think the music in this series by Kevin Kiner is absolutely beautiful, and just it helps elevate those moments of emotion, and just when, you know, your character is about to do something very heroic, you know, it adds so much to the moment. Like, I was smiling throughout this entire episode, and it brings me back again, like the previous episodes, to how it was when I was a kid watching Star Wars for the first time. They really have done a fantastic job. Filoni's done a fantastic job at recapturing that magic of Star Wars. And I just think there's a really, like, there's a lot of CGI, and you've got the volume stage and all of that, and sometimes you can tell when they're on the volume stage, which does kind of bug me a little bit. But I'm seeing a lot more practical being used within this show as well, that I really like. And it can be really small moments, like when they're about to jump into hyperspace while they're inside the space whale or the Purrgil. And you could tell it's lights on a kind of like a crane. The way in which they shot this scene, that's how it looks to me anyway. And do you know what? That adds so much. Like, it adds to the immersion. Like, there's CGI in this, obviously it's a very fantastical world, but just inserting those elements of kind of just those real elements, like lighting and sort of being in an actual cockpit and all of that, just really helps add to the immersion. Because I do feel like sometimes, especially with the prequels, they just over-relied on the CGI, and all the sets were CGI and all of that, whereas within this show specifically, there is just there's a bigger attempt, I feel, at using as much practical as they can. And another thing that I really like that Filoni is doing is really kind of connecting a lot of elements from what they now call the legacy Star Wars, you know, the novels that came out before Disney took over Lucasfilm. And a lot of those novels I read, especially the Thrawn trilogy, and there was a prequel called Outbound Flight. It's one of my favourite Star Wars novels, and it goes into the origins of where Thrawn comes from. And I like that Filoni in some way is really keeping a lot of that. Like, Thrawn is from another galaxy, and so where we've now got this story where they've got to go to another galaxy where Thrawn is, and so I really kind of like that Filoni's not forgetting what's come before as well, and we are getting elements of it, as well as the big obvious one being, which is the character of Admiral Thrawn, which I absolutely love. I loved him in the books by Timothy Zahn, and I'm hoping they retain a lot of the character of Thrawn that we know from those books as well, because I feel like that's what makes the character really compelling. He's not really your kind of straightforward villain. I've always kind of compared him a little bit to Thanos. He's a lot more complicated than just your straight up standard villain. So I'm hoping they retain a lot of Thrawn from the novels. One of the theories I do have is we've now got Ahsoka going to this other galaxy. I don't think they will return to this galaxy, or Thrawn even, or Ezra will return to this galaxy that we know. I don't think they will return until maybe the final of this series. That's my theory. I think we're going to spend the next 3 episodes now in this other galaxy, because this is all building up towards Filoni's film, Heir to the Empire, and I'm really looking fucking forward to that. I'm really hyped, I'm really excited, especially seeing what Filoni is doing here with this show. And so that's just a little bit, that's kind of my theory of where I can see the rest, the remainder of the show going. I feel like we're going to spend the next 3 episodes in this other galaxy where Ahsoka is not only going to find Ezra, but stop Thrawn from returning. And I think we're going to have this big climax in episode 8 where Thrawn does actually return. And then we're just going to wait for the film. That's kind of just how I feel. I think that's how they're going to play it. So, you know, Filoni has got to get fans on board, but he's also got to get people excited for this film as well. And I'm already excited anyway, but he's got a lot of work to do when it comes to the Star Wars fan community, put it that way, you know what I mean, without me going into too much, because that's not something that I really want to delve into. But yeah, the Star Wars community is a complicated one. So yeah, as I've said in my previous reviews, I'm not going to rate these episodes, I'm just going to rate them all. I'm going to rate the series as one during episode 8. Because I think, at the end of the day, every episode, and we've seen that with this show, that every episode is telling a part of the story, and it's a continuation of the same story. So I don't think it's fair for me to really slap a grade on each episode, though what I will say is, for me, episode 5 is definitely my favourite episode so far, and it's something that I felt in my heart and in my gut that we were leading to. We were always leading up to a moment like this with Ahsoka, because I could just see it through her performance as well. Rosario Dawson, who again is absolutely beautiful as this character, you could just see it through her performance that this character has so much weight on her shoulders, going through her mind, all that guilt and just what she's gone through in the past. And especially when you're a fan who's followed this character from the Clone Wars, and I could sense that, which is why Rosario Dawson's performance never really bothered me, because I felt like she was capturing where this character was truly at right now in time. So yeah, they are my thoughts on Ahsoka Shadow Warrior. By the way, I haven't mentioned, but Hayden Christensen as Anakin in this episode is, I say beautiful a lot, but do you know what? He was fucking beautiful. And it was emotional to see him again. I always liked Hayden as Anakin. I always loved his portrayal of Anakin Skywalker in the prequels. I never understood the hate, and I felt like I spent a lot of my life as a Star Wars fan always being confused by sort of the negative criticisms when it comes to the prequels. And, even the Disney Star Wars up until The Last Jedi. I mean, I love The Last Jedi, but I can't fucking stand The Rise of Skywalker. But, yeah, I never understood that hate towards Hayden at the time during the prequels. I mean, I was about 12 years old, and I just really liked what he did with the character, and I just loved what he did in this episode as well. And this entire episode really does pull on the heartstrings. It's emotional, it's deep, but it's up to you if you really want to dig into that, I feel, because the way it's done, I felt like, along with the writing, it's quite smart in how they do it. It's not heavy-handed. It's done just in a way that it's there, and it's there for you to explore and dig into if you want to. And I just really like that. And they don't really go too much into the detail of, the world in between worlds and what Anakin is, because obviously Anakin is an entity of some sort, but they don't go into too much detail about that. And again, a lot of fans are kind of sort of like, oh, they didn't really explain a lot, or, we've got a lot more questions now that needs answering. And again, it didn't really bug me, because I just like that mystery element to it. I kind of just want to imagine it myself, just as how I feel. So yeah, enough rambling on from me. They are my thoughts on episode 5, Shadow Warrior. But what did you guys think? Please let me know below in the comments. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Or did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Let me know below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to watch future reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on about film and TV, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot. I am getting a few interactions with my videos where I got people liking. There are a couple of people disliking as well, and mainly with my reviews of these episodes of Ahsoka. And the only thing I'll ask is, I really don't mind if you don't like it. I really don't. If you don't like the video, yes, dislike it. But I would also like to know why, just so we can get that discussion going, and whether there be any feedback in regards to how I conduct the review, or just something that you disagreed with what I said. Let me know. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to agree or disagree with me. So yeah. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.